Hi, welcome back. My name is Bill. This is my Hero System video for characteristics. So you can pause this and read it if you want. I'm going to go in a little bit more than what I have here. So strength is what you think it is. It's how powerful, how physically strong the person is, your character is, but it also does hand-to-hand damage. So for every 5 points of strength, you get an extra d6 damage on your hand-to-hand attack rolls. Your dexterity breaks initiative ties. So if you have higher dex, then you go first in initiative. Your con is the amount of stun damage you can take in a single attack and not be stunned. Being stunned just means you lose an action. So intelligence provides perception rolls and int-based skill rolls. Your ego is like your willpower, and it's your mental attack, your magic attack stat. And your presence is your charisma, and what you can do with presence is make a thing called a presence attack, and that's just like a persuasion roll or deception roll or something like that. So your offensive combat value is your attack stat, and your defensive combat value is the target number to hit. And then there's a mental version of each one of those. So to attack, you roll 3d6, and you want to roll low. So you add 11 to the combat value, or offensive combat value, or your mental offensive combat value. Then you subtract the number you rolled on your 3d6 from that total. And then that's the target number that you hit. That target number is the DCV of the target. So the reason you roll low is probably because the creators played a lot of second ed D&D, and rolling low was just like the style back then for whatever reason. I don't know. Like, it's unintuitive in my opinion, but there really isn't a good reason to be rolling high. You like high numbers. So that's basically it. So you add 11 to your combat stat, and then subtract a 3d6 roll from it, and then that's the target number that you hit. And your defensive combat value and your defensive mental combat value are the target numbers that people have to hit, roll to hit you. So your speed, the number that is your speed is equal to the number of actions you take in combat. If you're coming from like D&D or something, you might be used to just having one initiative number where you just take all of your actions that you can do. And this has it be more spread out. You only have a 1. Each combat round is 12 seconds long, and they're called segments. And so when you have like a 3 speed, you go on 4, 8, and 12. And so if you had like a 4 speed, you go on 3, 6, 9, and 12. And so this is where dex matters. If two of you have if there's a 4 and a 5 speed person, you both go on 3. Whoever has the higher dex will go first there. And these two charts are just a different way to say the same thing. So your physical defense and your energy defense are damage resistances. There's 2 different kinds of attacks. There's lethal damage and non-lethal damage. So if you take non-lethal damage, which are probably going to be most damages, then the body and stun, which are your 2 hit point types. So your PD and your ED, you subtract whatever that number is from the body and the stun from the normal damage you took. And if it's killing damage, if it's the lethal damage, then you will need to have a power called resistant defense, and that's just physical and energy and mental defense that resists the killing damage. But your defense, your physical, your PD and your ED do affect the stun from killing attacks. Alright, so to calculate normal damage, you can just look at this little chart over here. You can pause it and read if you want, but this normal damage chart here is all you need to look at. So when you roll damage for a normal damage attack, every 1 you get counts as 0 body damage, and any 2 through 5 counts as 1, and any 6 counts as 2. And then that's the number of body damage that you have done, and the total on the dice is the number of stun you do. So for killing damage, you total the number on the dice, and that's the amount of body you do. and then you multiply that number by some multiplier, and then that's the number of stun damage that you do. So what a half d6 is just a d3, and a d3 is just you roll a d6 and divide the number by 2. So recovery and endurance. So endurance are like your action points. Anytime you use a power or a movement power, anytime you move or you run or shoot your gun or whatever, that's going to require endurance. Each attack is going to take endurance, and when you're out of endurance, you can't do the attacks anymore. So recovery, you can take either a recovery action, or there's a thing called a post-segment 12 recovery. Whenever you take a recovery, you get your recovery back in endurance and stun. So after segment 12, there's like a segment 12.5 or whatever, and then that's when the post-segment 12 stuff happens. And you can take a recovery action, but that like lowers your DCV or does a couple of things I don't remember off the top of my head. So body and stun are both your hit point types. They're your lethal hit points and your non-lethal hit points. When you're at 0 body, you're knocked out, and then when you're at negative, your body, you die. When you're at 0 stun, you are just knocked out. So that's the characteristics video. I'll do a video on skills next, and might just include talents and perks with that as well. Okay, bye.